require browser modifications. Yeah.
You talked about caching earlier, so the cache would live in the browser then.
Yeah, there is caching. I mean, the server caches responds to cache requests at this point. The PDS server, the server that stores your data.
But you still have to query all the servers. So if you have
You
like
still have to do a head or something to check whether the file has been changed or not.
because if I go on Twitter today, I have like say 50 friends. I'll have to do, in this case, I'll have to do 50 requests.
Yes.
Every page note.
We're trying to fix that by using the notifications.
The what?
Notification protocol
Okay.
that would tell you every time there's a change. So you would go and fetch the new copy.
So you would have 50 channels open all the time for
You would
notification.
either have 50 channels open, or this could be server to server. So your data store would communicate with other people's data stores. So they would build a cache on your data store. So instead of going and fetching stuff from all these different sources on the web, you will just fetch it from one single source.
I'm following 1,000 people on Twitter, so obviously I can't have my browser connected
Yeah,
to 1,000
yeah.
different
I'm just worried about the
websites.
scaling.
Yeah.
Right, so that it has to be that my server, that I go through my server and it connects to them, but it doesn't need an open connection. It just has some sort of long-lasting subscribe. It posts a subscription and it will get notified. And then still that doesn't scale up above maybe a few hundred. And so for that you need some kind of concentrators
Yeah.
or something. But we could have some sort of a hierarchy.
So, and what if you wanted to do search, say full text search, like similar to Solr?
That's also a good question.
So where would you index the data?
You could have a different service that would take care of indexing.
So in the case of if I want to search through the things that I'm subscribed to, then if my server's caching those, I can just do that search on my own. If I want to do like Twitter does now, where it's searching across everything, that has to be a third-party service. And you can imagine there could be several third-party services in the world that try to index everything publicly accessible in Simba and offer trending topics and guides for advertising, and there's lots of different businesses you could build around that. But that would not be built in. There wouldn't be one of those. It would be as many as the market feels like supporting.
Like the Google of personal data stores.
Exactly.
Well, it could be. It depends how it works out. They might end up being effective for there to be just one, and then maybe they push to try and be that one.
But there's nothing about the architecture that forces that.
No, but anybody could do it. Just like the web, anybody can index it.
With public data.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, of course. Yes. The nice thing about having your own index. So I think, did I notice recently, sort of when you do a search for your machine with Spotlight on the Mac, it will show you. It'll do all kinds of different areas, like including contacts. I think including recent things you've seen on the web. So that's so similarly. Everything basically, so for example, it would be quite reasonable to cache all your friends' profiles and to have them available to you, and you have them indexed by your local index. That's,
Yeah. Well, that's something Google can do as well.
well, Google can't,
Like your
your,
friend Google now.
your local server will access everything you have read access to. So if you have private groups, then Google can't do that.
Oh yeah. I mean, now if my data lives at Google, they can do it.
Yeah.
Google now.
Oh, you did it to Google? There's Google, the search engine in Google. Yes.
I'm curious about the emphasis here on not only privatizing, not really the right word, but making private the content, but also the infrastructure. So I don't see I'm not sure about the value of making the infrastructure. I'm not convinced the value of making the infrastructure private. It seems like you could do the same sort of thing with encryption.
What kind of thing?
Make the data private so that if Google couldn't find it or whatever, but you would be sharing a common server. So you wouldn't have to worry about infrastructure.
Yeah, you could.
Is that something that?
You could store your data on a public. You could store your data encrypted on a public server instead of storing it on a server under the stairs. Yep. Both. The nice thing is you get a choice.
Right. So I'm still trying to get my head around the data, which I think of as pretty abstract and out there, and the interface to it. And it seems like when you're talking about Simba, you're talking about the whole thing. And at least for me, I think it's really critical that those be completely separate. That the brilliance, in my mind, is getting that data in a form that anyone can use and anyone can build interfaces to. And the image I had was that when I'm posting to services I use today, like Facebook and Twitter, I'm also creating my own copy. That then I can use other ways of getting it out that's mine, that I own, that I don't have to worry about. And I imagine that there'd be hundreds of people building and building, indexes into that, building public services that let me search it, building really clever ways of looking at it. And so what I'm just trying to understand is Simba seems to kind of put this all together and almost looks like a complete competitor to Facebook rather than something that is an example of a way of looking at this data.
Andre has opened up the covers here, and you see that what's actually posted there, there's nothing really about Simba there. Simba is sort of a branding around the concept and this particular user interface to it, but if you actually look at the RDF, it's using existing vocabularies. We didn't even have to invent any, I mean, we might still invent some, but there'd be nothing proprietary about those in any way. So you can write your own thing and have it be completely interoperable. And you just think of them posting some turtle files.
Right. So I could write an app that looked exactly like Facebook,
Yeah.
except that it was also saving a copy.
Yeah.
For me.
Well, no,
No?
not quite. You could write you could write an app that looks exactly like Facebook, and all it is doing
Okay.
is saving the data. It's not also posting to some Facebook or some Twitter or anything like that.
But
The
what-
whole one, Simba works like Twitter, and it does not send anything to Twitter.
But
It
what,
completely does, or it has the same functionality as Twitter without posting to some central server at all.
but what if I wanted to just keep track of everything I'd done to Facebook today? Because
Yeah, you could.
and so my app
Yeah.
could actually do Facebook and it could save.
Yeah, if you want. And Simba could also tweet if you tweet to Twitter
But there's no
if you want. But yes, as a transition strategy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. In order to get to here from where everyone is using Facebook today,
Yeah.
what if I could just be using Facebook and saving everything, and then at some point in the future, when
Yeah.
Facebook, people
I-
actually figure out that.
The problem with that transition strategy in my mind is I don't know why people would really bother to do that. You and I might do that because we sort of like to have our data, but that's not going to get the masses to do it. I think something
Well,
more compelling.
but why
has to
would
be
they
built.
abandon Facebook to take on it? I mean, I think
Yeah,
there's two sides of it.
Twitter and Facebook.
I think getting people off Facebook is going to be really hard. But if they were just saving a copy, well, that's kind of attractive. But to completely change, I don't know.
Snapchat.
Do it as a browser
Yeah,
extension.
Yeah, as a browser extension,
often
for example.
allow you to tweet. When you do this, whatever they are, they say, do you want to tweet this? Do you want to Facebook this?
Right.
Because
Right.
that gives people that connection to their legacy audience.
Right.
Yeah.
We still have a couple of
Yeah.
questions. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the question, when I heard this, and I'll take some seats here. Maybe the one is I'm not saying that for a second.
The one thing I'm curious a bit about is regarding context. So when I post something, whether it's in someone's entertainment channel or whatever channel, from the looks of it, I don't see context in here, and
You're not
sometimes
posting
I'm
to somebody else's channels. You're posting to your own channel.
Sorry,
You're never posting to an external
Yeah,
server.
I think the one challenge would be is if I see all this data, it's kind of tough to really understand when it's out of context in a way. So like I just see getting ready for Cambridge or some
Sure.
other thing, and if I don't see the whole context, it's like, okay, why did I do this?
This is just the content of this particular post. But this post is actually found inside a channel, channel 1, which has some metadata. It says that this is a shock container, and it has a title and the set member types of that post with the specific versions. And this channel, this particular resource, is also found in a different resource called the microblogging space, which is of type shock space and also shared workspace. So The idea is that this is all linked data. So you can traverse, you can find more information if you just look for it. So you are actually building the context yourself. And this is how we get to the initial space that is dedicated to the user to where the posts are. Because we never know, we get the web ID of the person, which is like a personal profile. And this personal profile has only one pointer, which points to the space, the storage space. So the app will follow its nose every time it wants to find where the posts are. And there's a huge graph, there's a graph with several levels that it has to traverse to find the graph resources.
You mentioned there's no central server. So let's just say we wanted the task to get everybody in here to be able to do this. There's no central way, so to facilitate today, we would send email with our personal SIMB URL or something, or
There is no SIMB
could
URL.
we eventually like have not a central server, but sort of a server we agree to all put our names in, sort of an aggregate growing, sort of not central, but decentralized,
Yes.
many peer server.
Like a
So that,
repository.
because like it would be hard to do, like, it'd be all across, like everybody getting, you sent me his email, but I don't know his,
Yeah.
and so it seems like there's a startup issue. How do you think about
We-
going forward and solve that?
Web ID profiles are basically FOF documents.
Right?
And in FOF you have this relation which is called FOF knows, which helps you to build a social graph. So you indicate that you know a lot of people, and by providing the link, their web ID, as the resource, instead of giving their name, you will be able to click on the link, follow the link, and get some information back. So what I could do at this point is, instead of us exchanging business cards, I can have a business card with a QR code, which has the URI, my web ID, and you would scan it with your phone, and you would have an app which adds that particular web ID to your list of FOF nodes. And from that moment on, we're connected.
Still very manual, I'm looking for all
And
sorts.
well, it's
Yeah.
the same problem that the web had when the web first started up, right?
Right.
How did you find out about all these different web pages?
Exactly.
And things like web directories were developed, and then huge search engines. came
So
up.
suppose I'm going to start a channel now for somebody to meet up.
Yeah.
It'll have a URL. Okay, so you can all go and know the URL, all bookmark it, just as you would for any other way of coordinating. And ideally, when you go home, then when you do reference to the URL, if you're not running this, if you're running Simba, it's easy. If you're not running Simba, then the interesting thing is how the thing bootstraps you, so that when you come along with a regular browser, the data store is sufficiently smart to say, ooh, a person with a regular browser, you're accessing my data, give them some JavaScript, so Andre store in fact.
So it will give you a default view,
It'll give you
a default interface.
and
So you would see, instead of seeing the data here, like this,
Right.
you would see it like this. For example. So you would get this card here, which says it has a username, it has maybe a picture. It displays the data in a way that you can read it without trying to parse turtle in your head.
But then also, it also has got to be able to encourage you to say, to tempt you to get yourself a web ID. Say, notice that if you want to post, you can read these, but if you want to post, when you hit post, it says, but you have web ID, you don't have a web ID, can I get you a web ID? And maybe I'll get you storage and you'll be able to use this address.
I think probably a directory is going to
Yeah.
actually.
Like, all the pieces make sense, but it seems like, in order to post a web ID, in order for someone to post to me, they need to not find my web ID, but my URI, because they can't look up my name, and names are ambiguous, and
And if we-
IDs are great on the web.
Yeah.
And I'm
Somebody
trying to,
should
like,
probably
look at
start-
the whole bootstrapping from already in the system, not in the system. My mother's 78, she doesn't have a web ID yet, she wants to post something to my to-do list, like, come shovel the stairs. How does she, so.
You don't really want her
How
to
do you
use your
start
web
it? So she won't, so I'm just trying to look at the in the system, not in the system, directory services. It seems like there's a bootstrapping from many different ways, and just finding everybody in this room the way I do that was go to the VNet, and then I just have ambiguous things called names, and how to find their funky URL. It seems like there's something that would help it be more adopted, that's
Right, I mean, in my mind,
not
it's-
necessarily the central server, but sort of a directory. looking for
the
some-
interesting
some
question,
search or something.
as I'm saying, is do you have the sort of neutral directory, or do you have a directory that really knows your social graph? So it's really just looking out 3 levels of people you know and can only find, or only looks out some levels out your social graph, because almost everyone you're going to encounter is not too far out your social graph. But once in a while you meet someone who really is, and maybe those people need to use their email address. to
Maybe
find
it's
them.
just me and I'm naive, but if there was a way that when I have web ID, I post a web ID registry that at least people can look to find, and they can start with an ambiguous thing called a name and see 6 people, just like Facebook kind of thing, or LinkedIn, so.
Well, there was a time when I had a list of the first 26 websites, because people would email me when they found it.
Yeah, so it's an email sort of
Okay, so
facilitator.
similarly,
Yeah.
during the ramp up, it would be quite reasonable for Simba, it stores against you the fact that you're running this app, so that when any software that's running under your web ID can see which apps and which data, data sets you've got. It could also store against the app, but by the way, this person's got modular privacy. Do you mind registering this with Andre? He's keeping a list. And so for the first 1,000, maybe even the first 10,000, if it's managed well, he could keep a list of all the people running the app.
Yep.
After that point, then maybe we need to say no. But that's a good way, and it's a good way of keeping good community together. After the 10,000.
So that
In
is
a lot of ways, the naive directory already exists. It's called LinkedIn, it's called Facebook, it's called Twitter, because on any one of these, in your profile, you can put your web ID URI.
Yeah.
And so anybody who can find you by any of those mechanisms gets your web ID and thereby gets you into whatever of these things.
Well, so we really want the autocomplete thing, where if it's an app, you just start to type the name.
Sure, and if you can fast forward 20 years, awesome, but we've got the naive one right now.
Well, I did have in my LinkedIn profile say call. I've stopped using LinkedIn, but I used to have my web ID as the only piece of information.
Okay, yeah. I think you had one
Uh,
question.
How much overlap does this piece of software have with my profile? Like, did you reuse a lot of the code?
No.
Like, is it
Not at all, nothing.
from scratch?
Yeah.
Great question. We could get the software. Could we just go to GitHub and say, get me all Simba?
Yeah.
Is there a bunch of, like one place that we can see all the,
Well,
Try and-
Simba.co uses the latest code from GitHub. So whatever is get pushed to GitHub.
Just view source on Simba.co.
Yeah.
But it's not good.
There is nothing that is.
Good thing to add at the bottom. Is a little
There is.
button. Do you have a
There is.
tell me on GitHub at the bottom?
It's like,
There is a link for
GitHub, okay.
Voilà.
GitHub. There's also the bug tracker.
Yeah. I speak GitHub.
Right, so if you try this and it doesn't work, use the bug tracker link there and let us know.
Please try to submit bug reports or issues. Any kind of feedback is good feedback.
Or fix them. And then
Fix it.
Okay, well, thank you all very much. Thank you, Andre and Sandro. Thank you, Tim, also for your additions, even though you didn't get introduced at the beginning. But so our tradition is to head across the hall to the pub for additional conversation and drinks if you'd like over there. So please join us.